What's up YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another great video with everything Avron. As you can see here, I got the hood popped open in the Ecoboost, which obviously means we're going to be working on something with this. So if there's one thing you need to know, or one thing you should know about Ecoboost, especially if you have a tune on them, you have to keep up with the spark plug maintenance on these guys. It's extremely important. These guys run through spark plugs fairly quickly either way, but when you have a tune using high boost and advanced timing and all that good stuff, they even chew through them faster. So today, everybody, that's exactly what this video is going to be about. We're going to be changing out the spark plugs once again on the Ecoboost. I change mine every 15, maybe 25,000 miles, depending on what this guy feels like and how it runs. What tends to happen with these Ecoboost guys, you'll start feeling a little bit of sputter or a little bit of hesitation on the low ends every once in a while, and that pretty much just means that a spark plug is actually kind of giving out. So the second I feel that, I immediately pick me up a new pack of Sparkies. Alright guys, so I went ahead and just laid out all the stuff you'll need to get this project done today. So we'll run through that real quickly. You're going to need a little torque wrench here. You'll need your 5/8 or 16mm adapter. The spark plug tool pretty much is what it is. And you'll need a universal joint. Anytime I'm working with spark plugs, I always have a universal joint so I can avoid snapping it off into the block. You'll need a small 8mm. You'll use that for a couple of different bolts on this project. You'll need an extension. 6 inches will work. Then you'll need a flathead screwdriver to get off some of the clips. Then of course you'll need your wrench to take everything off. But if you have one, a drill with a drill adapter will work even better. You'll need a spark plug gap tool. That's how you'll be able to verify the spark plug gaps and adjust them if necessary. You'll need some shop towels. You'll need some spark plug boot grease, or maybe even some dielectric grease, some anti-seize to prevent them from getting stuck in between now and the next spark plug change. And of course, you'll need your spark plugs. So first things first, for this project today, you're going to want to simply take off the negative cable on the battery, because you are actually going to have to disassemble a couple of cables and connectors. In addition to just those on the coil packs and the spark plugs, you will actually have to disconnect a connector back there on the high pressure fuel pump, because it's in the way and you can't get out that last coil pack. So just to make sure that nothing happens with the computer, the truck doesn't freak out, just disconnect the battery. So if you guys have ever worked on an F150 Ecoboost like this, in this body style, one thing you'll notice real quick is the engine is oriented very far back and pretty darn low. And I'm not too short of a guy, I'm about 6'3", and I always find it extremely difficult to reach over the side of the fender to get back to these spark plugs, especially the two that are on the back sides. So what I actually do normally, if you have a front bumper, I actually just sit on my grill, and allows me to lean over and actually do the project from up here. If you are a shorter person, yeah, I'd recommend maybe a step stool, or just figure out how you can sit up on the sides. So guys, turning our attention directly to the coil packs, you're going to first want to take off these connectors here. Hopefully you can see, this is the best thing I could get you. There's this little red tab that Ford just loves to use. You want to be careful. You need to pull those guys down before you can actually disconnect this connector. I use a little flathead screwdriver just like that, and that allows you to squeeze the connector and be able to slide it off. There we go, just like that. Why I say be careful is after a while these little clips get very brittle. As you can see here, this one doesn't have the red one because I snapped it off in the last spark plug change, so just be careful. So over on the driver's side, guys, I actually already have my engine cover off, as you know, because I had to take it off in order to make some clearance for my ethanol content sensor. But you will still have the little sound dampener over the high pressure fuel pump, so you'll want to take that off and set that aside. And here you go, now you have access to your driver's side spark plugs here. And like I said, while we disconnect the battery, in order to get out this very furthest back coil pack, you're actually going to have to disconnect the high pressure fuel pump connector. So yeah, that's the reason for that. So now that you have the connectors on the coil packs disconnected, as well as the high pressure fuel pump connector disconnected, it's time to turn our attention to the actual bolts on the little coil packs here. This guy is actually just an 8mm socket, and here's the universal joint that you see me shout out in my videos in the past. Very important. We're going to use these throughout this video. Like I said before, they just prevent you from applying a lateral stress onto bolts and the spark plugs, so you don't have to worry about snapping something off. So once again, we'll just go ahead and take these off, take them out. I'll do the same on the other side, and we'll be ready for the spark plugs. And once you have those bolts taken off, you can easily pull out the coil packs. I already removed those back two, so simply just like this, pull it right out. Now it's time to turn our attention to the spark plugs, and like you've seen in my past videos, the second I take out a plug, I'm gonna cover it with like a shop towel or just something so I can prevent dirt and dust from falling into the engine. And then we'll just do one by one. I'll take this first one out, get the new spark plug ready, put it in, and then move on to the next one, so on and so forth. In order to take out these spark plugs, you're going to need a 16mm or a 5/8 socket, deep socket specifically, and most toolkits come with a specific one for spark plugs. So we'll go ahead and simply just drop that in there, and we'll take this first one out. It should actually just hang on to the socket itself, and sure did. There it is. So I'll go ahead and set this aside, and we'll move to the workbench. So now that we're at the workbench, it's time to take a look at our new spark plug and our old spark plug. One thing you can look at on your old one is just to kind of see what is the condition of it. If it's covered in like a dark charcoal looking material that's kind of wet, that means your engine is running extremely rich. And on the other side, if your engine's running extremely lean, it'll actually be covered in like a white powdery looking substance, which means it's actually kind of burning slightly. This spark plug is actually doing neither of the two, so I think we're dead on as far as the tune goes. Turning our attention over to the new spark plug, as you can see, nice, clean, shiny, but it's not quite yet ready. What you're going to want to do is actually gap these spark plugs. These ones here for Ford, which are the SP580's, they're normally pre-gapped to about 0.032, but if you're running a forced induction engine, or if you're running a higher boost tune like I am, you'd want to drop that down. So I like to run a 0.03 inch gap. So we're going to go ahead and verify this guy before we actually put it in the truck. But just like I was expected, it's not exactly 0.032. It's actually sitting at closer to 0.036. So we're going to go ahead and adjust the gap. You carefully want to tap the end on a hard surface, and it's not going to take very much, so just lightly tap it on something, and that'll allow you to put the gap down lower, and then we'll recheck it again. Alright guys, so I went ahead and gapped not only this one but the other 5, and they are now all at 0.03. Hopefully you guys can see it there, but yep, right there in the middle, 0.03. So we're good to go on the gapping for all these guys. So next up, what we're going to do is actually apply some anti-seize just to the threads of the spark plug. This will prevent it from seizing up over the next 10 to 20,000 miles. And yeah, definitely don't forget this part. It's very important. I'm going to go ahead and lightly coat this guy, and we'll make our way back over to the truck. Alright guys, now that we're back in the truck, it's time to remove that paper towel you had blocking the little spark plug hole. And what I went ahead and did was actually just put the spark plug into the little socket on the end. It'll hold itself in place, and that makes it easier for us to drop it in there. And to start off, do not use a screwdriver, do not use your torque wrench or anything. Just use your hand to make sure that you get it threaded and you're not cross-threading anything. So that's very important. Make sure you drop it in there just like that, and actually start to screw it in by hand to start off with. There we go. Now we're getting tight. So now it's time to torque it. Per the manufacturer's recommendations, it's to 11 foot-pounds, or just about 11 foot-pounds. In other words, that's about 133 inch-pounds. I'm not going to do it that high because it's an aluminum block and I don't think it needs that much. I'll drop it just slightly down to 120 inch-pounds, which is about 10 foot-pounds, and I'll be happy with that. So what I'm going to do, guys, is just going to run through the rest of the spark plug installation. It's going to be the exact procedure. I'll remove it, take it to the workbench, check it, make sure the new one sparked correctly, put a little bit of anti-seize on it, bring it back over here, install it, torque it, and pretty much just do that 6 times over. So I won't bore you guys with that. Now that you're done installing the spark plugs, you're ready to move on to your coil packs. What I do before I install my coil packs is I'll put just a little bit of spark plug boot protector grease, pretty much just around the inner surface of these boots here. Pretty much all that does is kind of just prevents moisture and water from being able to get inside to where your spark plug electrode is, as well as it'll prevent this rubber from drying out and cracking. So yeah, do that, and that'll just kind of help you out as far as longevity goes. Alright, now that the inside of your coil boots are nice and lubricated, it's time to simply just drop them back in. You can keep them in the same orientation that you took them off if you're trying to troubleshoot a specific cylinder misfire, if you have one. Other than that, just drop them in with any orientation, and you should be good to go. And once you have them installed, go ahead and put back in the 8mm screw that you took out earlier. Get that nice and seated. Make sure you start with your hand so you make sure that you're not cross-threading. Then you'll simply just go ahead and screw them back in. I'm not too sure what the torque is. I believe it's around 8 foot-pounds, but I just kind of go until it's nice and tight. These don't have to be extremely tight because it's just going into the plastic valve cover. So as long as it's snug, you should be good to go. And once you get all 6 of those guys nice, tight, and snug, you're ready just to simply connect them. Pretty much you just slide them right on like that. Listen for the click, and then go ahead and push the little red tab back in, and that's safe and secure. Then you'll do that just for the rest of them. Last but not least, make sure you do not forget to plug in your high pressure fuel pump, because obviously it won't work. And now that you got all your connectors connected up and your fuel pressure, you're simply ready to go and reconnect the battery. We'll go ahead and turn the vehicle on just to make sure it starts up, and we'll listen to it idle. And there we go. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, you have now successfully changed your spark plugs in your F150 Ecoboost. It is now good to go, and now should be stronger than ever. And like I said before, if you have a tune on your F150 Ecoboost, it is extremely important to change your spark plugs more often than not because of the way these engines run. And if you have a tune, the way they push these engines to even higher level of performance, it is very important to do so. So we're done for today. Stay tuned for another video coming up pretty soon for this Ecoboost and many more items. But thank you for watching Everything Avron. I'll see you on the next one.